Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us as we get ever closer to the March 5th Vermont Town Meeting Day. And we've got a number of shows scheduled and happy to be focusing today on St. Albans Town issues and a little later, candidates running for the Select Board. I should note we're taping this show on Monday, February 19th on the President's Day holiday for some folks anyway, but I guess not for these guys. Again, left to right, Sean Adkins, the St. Albans Town Manager, Jack Brigham, the Vice Chair of the St. Albans Town Select Board, Bryan DesLauriers, the Chair of the St. Albans Town Select Board. Thanks for your time, folks.
Thank you.
And thanks to producer Alan Cunningham, who I may be costing a holiday, but thanks to producer Alan out there. And Jack, busy day for you today on the 19th. Again,
Yeah.
heard you on radio this morning.
Yeah.
Our good friend, Mr. Brad Ferland, interviewing you on WDEV. Yeah, but I trust they have a few listeners in Franklin. I'm sure they have a few anyway in Franklin County.
Hope so.
Anyway, okay, so March 5th, I got my town report the other day from Anna Borden. I should note Anna running unopposed for another 3-year term. And I should note, too, again, we're going to have another show when David McWilliams joins us, but Jack Brigham running for re-election to a 2-year term, Bryan DesLauriers running for re-election for a 3-year term. So, Sean, your first budget, I guess, throwing together for St. Albans Town. Yeah. How was that? You're no stranger to budgets, I guess, but it's a lot different than your Virginia budgets?
Yes, yeah. It is. It's a lot different. The whole process, to be honest with you, is drastically different.
Better or worse, or different?
Different. It's just different.
Really?
Yeah.
Briefly, how so?
I guess first and foremost, we have to kind of finalize things halfway through the year.
Because, of course, it's a budget for fiscal year 2025.
Yep.
That doesn't start for a while.
Right, yeah. So it's, I guess it's harder to make like the projections, I guess, of where you'll be. At least that's what I'm used to doing, as opposed to now it's like, oh wait, it's December. We have to have a good idea. And normally, I guess you would hope you'd have a good idea elsewhere too, of course. But and then of course you usually finalize it in May or June. And that's voted on, at least in Virginia, by council or supervisors, as they call them. As here is March 5th is the day where the public votes on it. So
first Tuesday in March. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Brian, let me go right to you. I guess when I got the warning in town report, I guess the first thing that struck me, I'm used to a number of articles in St. Albans Town, maybe even double digits. And we're down, of course, the first article, the folks being elected to office, but Article 2, the budget, a little over a $7.1 million budget. In Article 3, authorizing Select Board being asked for authorization to use up to $600,000 of the prior year general fund balance to reduce taxes for the coming year. So what happened to all those articles? I assume you threw most of that stuff into the budget?
Which articles?
I'm just in the past. I'm just used to a number of separate articles on the fire department, and now I'm seeing just two money.
Yeah, I guess it just worked out that we didn't have those this year. I mean, you're right. We've had the fire, adding extra to the fire reserve. We started the DPW reserve as well a couple of years back. There was none of those popped up this year. There was an article proposed that we took off, which was dealing with up to $500,000 of the $600,000 that you just referenced.
Yeah.
And maybe using that over a few years, but the select board voted to try to essentially return all of that this year instead. Okay. There's just not a whole lot of articles that came up. All the changes are in the budget. Some of the big ones, of course, the police agreement that we had, and all the various changes are embedded in that budget.
Okay. Again, the actual budget figure up about $1 million, but effectively with Article 3, if that's approved, and I can't imagine it won't be, does that effectively make the budget just up $400,000, or am I missing something?
No, give or take, yeah.
So not as big a hit with your Article 3. Is that a bigger, the $600,000 surplus general fund balance? That's a fair amount of bucks. Is that kind of bigger than it should? Obviously, you're happy to have a balance, but should it not be that big a balance?
It's the law enforcement, again, because of the staffing shortages with the sheriff's office. Actually, when I first got here, basically redid the agreement. So because of the staffing shortages, instead of them paying them up front, then we pay them after the fact because it gives us a clearer picture of actual hours worked. So the overall, I think we budgeted 1.4 million last year. It's going to come in significantly lower than that in terms of what we spent on it. So just in that line item would be significant.
And in the historic agreement, Jack, you certainly played a not insignificant role in that, but of course the police coverage from St. Albans City PD kicks in on July 1st. So again, and I think the Sheriff's Department's had some staffing issues along with everybody else. So there's been some savings. You ended up not spending what you thought you would be spending on sheriff's patrols. I think the Sheriff's Department has still done a decent job, Brian?
I think so.
But again, staffing, has that been an obvious kind of concern?
With what they have, I mean, Sheriff Grismore's was very upfront, has communicated, I believe, as much as he could, as much as we need. We see a lot of those reports on coverage that they've had. The town needs more coverage, and it's not because it just staff shortage is really tough. Now, I will say, just as a quick aside, of course, we've been dealing a lot with Chief Lamoth with the St. Albans Police Department, and it is the St. Albans Police Department, not the St. Albans City Police Department.
Is that kind of an official?
That is official. If you look at it, it's the St. Albans Police Department, and we are on pace to have hopefully full staffing coverage when July 1 rolls around.
Yeah, so Chief, the Chief has done okay. They definitely have been staffing up.
Yeah, now every time you talk to him, he'll say, of course, people could quit tomorrow, right? He wants to hold that caveat out there, but we're on pace. Last week, I was happy to be invited to go down as part, because we're partners now, or more or less, to sit on interviews for potential police officers.
Oh, really?
So I spent a day doing that as well, and that was a great experience, but it was good to be able to talk from the town's perspective and give our input, and I think it was taken seriously. And so I was able to talk to him then, and we're on pace right now to have full staffing for July 1.
And again, city and town, basically 50-50. You're splitting an even split in the cost of this.
Correct. Yep.
So I assume you're looking and expecting and will get significantly more police coverage in the town come July 1st?
Well, and
is that the case?
yes, I mean, from just a staffing perspective,
Just from a
right? Because
staffing
if they're full, we're going to have people, fully staffing. Again, the other piece to it is it's going to be set up to be much more proactive, right? The street crimes unit, we're going to be more proactive.
That's coming back.
Right.
Yeah, and we're not sharing, so to speak, resources with other Franklin County towns around, and we're going to have a much bigger impact on what's happening with our town manager, with our members on the joint police board. Those are going to be very large things. And just one more point, this is a minimum 15-year agreement. Right. So right now,
I'm not sure I had heard 15
right now,
years
it's
before.
the population of the city and town are roughly equal.
Yeah, for the record, St. Albans Town inched ahead of the city, and it's now the largest of Franklin County's 15 municipalities. But very, very close.
Yeah.
And the big question is, what's that going to look like 15 years from now? If current trends continue, the town will be meaningfully larger, but we'll pay half.
That's right. It's right. Boy, I'm not sure I had heard the 15-year before. Is that new
It's
news?
a minimum. Well, I'll tell you, it's a minimum 10-year.
Okay.
With a 5-year or 3-year.
3 years.
So 13.
Yeah.
All right.
Really?
13-year, Richard. I mean,
Wow.
I'm sure we can go back and we can dub that over, right? Well, 13
Wow,
years.
that's a
So
lot
it's a
of-
10-year agreement, and you need to give the other municipality a 3-year, warning or whatever to get out. So, but of course, our hope is that that's never a discussion. That's never anything that we need to discuss. That cooperation hopefully can continue.
Yeah, of course, City PD, as it picks up, St. Albans Town on July 1st is dropping Highgate. They're not going to be dealing with
Right.
Highgate anymore.
Right.
So, Jack, comfortable with this budget? Anything jumping out at you? You comfortable with this? It's a few bucks.
We turned it over 2 or 3 times trying to figure out where do we cut, how do we cut, how do we keep it down, and it's not a whole lot that we have control on. A lot of it's inflation, and like I said, the police thing jumped it a fair amount.
Yeah.
But then we had the money from the sheriff's department that wasn't being spent. And
Yeah.
we figured, we had a good increase last year. It'd be best for the taxpayer if we could dump that money right back in and relieve the pressure on people's pocketbooks. So that was a long discussion, but that's what we came up with.
Aside from the big police hunk of this, aside from police, Brian, any huge changes in other components of the budget, or?
Yeah, just a couple I'll mention.
Yeah.
So one, the police budget as a line item appears to jump, well, not appears, it jumps significantly.
Yeah.
But about 200,000 of that is including the dispatch, right? That
Okay.
we no longer need to pay, that used to be in other parts of the budget.
Another line item.
Okay, so we're paying for ambulance dispatch and fire dispatch and police dispatch. That's, I believe the number's around 200,000 that we no longer pay, but that's embedded now in the police line item. So although the police, line item is going up about $1 million, about 200,000 of that is taken from another part of the budget.
Oh, okay.
We
That-
were
that's
able,
That's
yeah,
reducing another part of the budget.
correct, yep,
Okay.
yep. Another piece, we did basically eliminated an unfilled position to try to keep the budget down, right? It's not that we don't want that position or don't need it, but we did that because we're trying to keep the budget down because we obviously recognize this is a large increase.
Yeah.
Other things that we did that I think are relevant to speak about is we did take about $250,000 of the DPW budget and allocated that into the stormwater utility budget. And that is because our DPW folks are doing the work of the stormwater utility. So it makes sense to pay them out of the stormwater utility. Keeping in mind the stormwater utility is funded by every organization that's in St. Albans Town. So even tax exempt organizations are paying into that. The school district is paying into that.
State
So
facilities,
it's
yeah.
not strictly from residents that are paying that in businesses, but also tax exempt, federal government, state government are all paying into that to help with the mandates that we have. And so we're able to shift those costs where it belongs, which is the stormwater utility.
Interesting, which we've talked about before, which is a big issue these days you're going to be dealing with for quite a while.
Yeah.
Quite a few years, yeah.
At least 2036.
Yes.
Really.
So,
Out of
Ain't going all the way
curiosity,
then either.
out of curiosity, a tax bill is typically about 2/3 on the school side, or maybe even more. You're running into people who question you about school, not that you have anything to do with it, I guess, but
No,
you're running
no.
into people who hit you up on school education, which sounds like it's a huge issue out there.
Yeah,
And an incredibly messy, complicated, convoluted issue.
Yeah, leave it to the legislature to mess stuff up. We met with our rep, Lynn Dickinson there, and she was explaining to us how it was gonna work, and I guess we're not gonna be as bad as some communities on our, what is it, common level of appraisal
assessment.
is right on the borderline, so, I mean, that was another thing why we decided to kick back to 500,000 or 600,000, is because people are really gonna get hit there.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
you know,
Maple
that's-
Run's budget, we're talking about 76 mil, talking
yeah,
big bucks, but that just sounds like a huge concern.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I guess, not a case in St. Albans Town, but boy, any municipality looking for a local Swanton comes to mind with the public safety building. Boy, I just think all the talk and concern, controversy about school issues is, boy, not going to help municipalities looking for local projects, I would think. I guess
Right.
we'll see.
Yeah, and along those lines, Richard,
Yeah.
which again we're all alluding to here.
Yeah.
Our municipal budget has nothing to do with the school budget.
Right.
The school budget has nothing to do with the municipal budget.
Right.
It just want to
No, sure.
make that explicit.
Yeah, I'd like to think most people realize that, but I'm thinking some people just kind of throw everything together.
Well, the tricky part is, right,
Yeah,
who do all of our residents pay for their school taxes? They
Yeah.
pay the town of St. Albans,
Yeah.
right? We collect that. So there is sometimes
You
some
collect the
confusion
money.
with that, yeah.
Jack, anything, you've dealt with a few budgets over the year,
Right.
anything much different about this one than other ones?
Everything's higher,
Yeah.
you know, the pavement, salt, fuel, I mean,
Yeah.
all things that are used heavily on DPW. And, of course, salaries, we try to keep our employees at a reasonable increase
Yeah.
because it's so hard to find them. And you got your insurance, that never slows down.
Our employees, is there an increase for employees in this budget?
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's
4%.
about
Yeah.
4%.
4%
Yeah, the-
cost of living and.
But the costs that are really hitting on that end
Yeah.
are benefits,
Yeah.
right? And which we really don't have any control over, minus cutting benefits or making the employees pay more for their benefits.
And are they doing, are they paying the same now that they've been doing for years? Did you hit
Same.
them up for a little more?
Same percentage, correct,
Same-
Sean?
yeah,
It's
same
broken down as a
They're paying
percent. so-
more,
okay.
but it's percentage.
Yeah, so it not only is the town share of it going up, but each individual employee is paying more also.
Yeah.
It went up like 15%, I think.
Yeah,
on the
it's
insurance side.
Really?
significant.
So are those increases, is that costing you, are you going to be, resurfacing, repaving fewer roads because of higher costs? Is that
Definitely.
impact?
Definitely.
like that.
When I think of what we used to do
Yeah.
and what we're doing now, I mean, we really got to look around and find the worst spots and
Yeah.
address those. And
Yeah.
some roads might not have been touched for 15 years, but they're not in bad shape, so
Yeah.
we'll just move to where we need to be.
Yeah, it's tough now too, because I believe somewhere in our policies or something, there's, a commitment to do 5 miles a year.
Yeah.
So we have a $500,000 budget for paving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right now, going rate for paving is $175,000 a mile.
Wow. Really?
So obviously, the math doesn't add up there.
Is that right? 175,000 a mile?
Yeah. So shout out to Dave Allerton, and our DPW director.
Yeah, really
Done a great
top-notch
job
guy,
getting,
yeah.
he's excellent getting us, he knows where to look to get us some grants, and it's going.
The town seemingly has done pretty well with LOT, local option tax money, again,
That
funding
helps.
the new public works garage, the town
Town
hall.
hall.
How much there, you still have some extra money coming in every year aside from what you're paying for?
Yeah, there is.
Any plans for what to do with the money the extra money you have?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty well known that our fire department building needs either
Significant
massive renovation or what would be probably more cost-effective long-term is a new building altogether. So at a recent meeting, we did, vote to start an exploratory committee. I think the Messenger had that as well.
Yeah.
Nice article on that. So that's something there, because sometimes I see comments as to, great, there goes the, property taxes are going to go up. And because we have the LOT and because we have a reserve in there, if we were to move forward with the new fire department building, again, it probably would not cause any increase in the property taxes.
Really, you could pick that up from the LOT money.
Yeah, if the town hall is an example, right? If not that it would cost exactly the same, but we were able to basically put down about half and then pay the rest over on a 10-year note. Now, interest rates may be different the next time around, so maybe that would change the calculus a little bit. But the LOT would probably be able to fund that without us needing to affect property taxes.
Again, for the record, a tax is a tax. I don't mean to make it sound like
Right.
the LOT is free money, but it sounds like that's worked very well for the town.
Yeah, it's been a big help.
Yeah.
But at least it's shared. It's not only residents who pay that, so it's
Yeah,
also
for sure.
obviously
Yes.
non-residents.
And of course, the state loves, I can only assume, loves LOTs because it picks up, 30% of it.
Yeah.
So I can only assume the state's
Yeah.
happy to see everybody do an LOT, I would think.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and it's getting some attention in Swanton. The Swanton folks are starting to talk about that.
Considering
it,
And of course, St. Albans City jumped into that after the town did. What was the cost for the town hall? What was the price tag on the town hall?
Just under
4.5, I
A
believe.
little under, about 4.5 to
Yeah,
5.
somewhere in there.
Any rough, I realize you're just starting out on a new firehouse. Any rough early costs on what that might be? We're talking a few mil presumably?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I would love for it not to be that, but
So maybe close to the town hall possibly?
that's what I'm hoping. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
We'll see.
we've got part of this committee, which has the new chief, Matt Mulharen, on
Yeah.
it, and is to find, first, talk with the city, see if there's any chance of a joint some sort of a joint venture in the future there. And
Well, it
that
sounds
might-
like if there's ever going to be a merger, it sounds like this might be the time to go for it.
Well,
huh?
we're gonna talk with them.
Yeah.
Matt's putting together, trying to get some figures on where the
Locations.
majority of the calls are, the response time from where his firefighters live. It may stay right where the other one is. It may move. That's not known yet. I also want to mention that just recently, our Chief Cross for so many years retired. We had a
Right.
nice get-together for him
Right.
a few weeks ago.
Yeah, interviewed the chief a while back, yeah. Tremendous career. And he remains, for the record, the town's, public safety administrator, at least for the time being.
Plus, he's
He's still a
part of the fire
firefighter.
department.
Yeah.
Old habits hard to break, I guess. And good for the chief. It may not be much of a budget figure. I got to ask you about the town hall, which has been, as in the old town hall, former town hall,
Yeah.
much in the news. And I guess I was left me wondering a bit what was going on. What is it now? Again, was there a sale that didn't go through? There are, I guess, a couple of interested parties, but can you give us at least a short version of that, Sean, or somebody?
Yeah, that's hard to make that one a short story.
Is it for sale? I guess that's maybe my first question. Right now, or is he still looking for a buyer for it, or any
Yeah,
someday?
we basically, after the situation happened that got us to this point, we pressed the reset button. So we haven't officially put it back on the market yet, but it will be. So it'll be for sale. It effectively is for sale, but it's the official process. I imagine we'll probably kickstart it after our next meeting.
Yeah, I'll just say, Richard, if you're selling your house, you list it with an agent, and it's just open-ended for sale until you pull it down. In this case, our disposal of assets policy for real estate said there should be an RFP period, or a period of time where people can submit bids.
Yeah.
That period of time ended, I think it was September 30th, or whatever the exact date was, but September 2023. At that time, we had 0 bids. And then we had kind of 2 that came in.
Mitch
right
Montaigne,
at the
former
end.
selectman, I guess, made a bid, and it looked like he, for at least a short period of time, was going to be the owner. And then when St. Mary's Academy.
Yeah, and the bottom line is it came in, both of them came in after this RFP period had ended.
Yeah.
And so we felt it made sense maybe to say, hit pause and either restart a period or go to some kind of public auction. None of that is official at all. So there's some different ideas out there, but the bottom line is our period for selling that ended September 30th, and we didn't have any bids.
Huh.
We did not move to open a new period. We didn't really make any official pronouncements. And then 2 bids, essential bids, came in kind of at the last minute, so to speak.
Well, it was a bid and a lease.
A bid and a lease.
One bid and one lease.
Yeah. And I think our disposal of assets policy didn't contain directions on what to do after the period if there's no bids.
Yeah.
So we were in a little bit, I think, of a gray area, and so that's where we found ourselves. And we decided to just let's stop and reassess.
That's right, because Sean, you've mentioned in earlier shows mentioned that you had some thoughts on something to do with the town hall. You seem pretty confident that something would happen.
Yeah.
Either of the 2 things that came up, were you thinking of other than what's already come up?
First and foremost, I just want to see it used.
Yeah.
That's the biggest point of emphasis for me. I think both prospects, for lack of a better word, had good ideas for it.
Yeah.
And it still might become, one of those 2.
Yep.
But really, as a town, we kind of pivoted from, all right, let's kind of sell the town hall, let it be used again, and kind of pivot our points, or our attention to the stone house. So that's kind of another LOT thing that we're looking at with those funds,
Yeah.
is to renovate the stone house. So.
Well, it's been a while. I haven't even thought about it. The old St. Albans Bay Elementary School, is that anything? What's going on there, if any?
Project Source still there.
Is that project store's been there for years, for a number of years? huh?
Yeah. And we
Interesting.
had the same issue back in the day when we moved up to Main Street there, as that building sat, we tried to dispose of that, and it took a while, and
Wasn't there something that it had to be used for education?
Yeah, there was something in the deed where
Yeah.
the folks that had donated the land or something, it had to be used for education. That put limitations on it. Although the old town hall has some limitations too, that, about what
Yeah.
you can do there
Yeah.
with septic capacity and
Yeah.
things like that. And so it's never easy to get rid of old buildings.
Yeah. The old site of the Public Works garage, right near
Yeah.
the town hall. Again, talked about possibly a boat launch area, kayak access, whatever, anything.
Yeah.
Any more news on that?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if it's news, but kind of an update on it is
Yeah.
we're working with VHB is the firm that's going through it. We have 3 just kind of alternates of or options is the better word for what it might become. One of them is a boat ramp, then the other 2 basically a smaller boat ramp, so you still get your canoes, your kayaks, and all that, and access to the water, which would be less of an impact. We'd have to dredge out if it was going to be a full boat ramp.
It's not deep enough there for big
Yeah.
boats.
Right.
Yeah.
Boy, dredging. Did you look into what dredging would cost?
No, you probably couldn't even dredge today with the.
I
all the
almost can't
rules and
Yeah.
imagine you pulling that
regulations.
off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be tough. And just in my view, if it was deep enough to kind of look over there and just see it paved, a lot of stormwater issues with that impervious surface.
Yeah.
We'd like for it to become a, full year. Well, you might be chilly, obviously, on some days, but some type of community space park. To really,
Access for ice fishermen and
Mhm.
things like that.
Yeah.
As you know, if you try to get over to Hathaway's Point to launch a canoe or a small fishing boat.
Well, it can be pretty wild out there on,
Yeah.
on
It's
a
a
nice
zoo
summer
over
day.
there on a nice
Yeah.
day, so this might take some of the pressure off
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah, and I think if it was something like that too, just, separate piece of it is, still having a parking lot there would be nice for the town hall if there's
And
events there.
Bay
or
Day and
Yeah.
stuff like
Bay
that.
Day, but even I'm thinking elections. I mean, eventually we'd like to
Yeah.
move to have a town meeting
Yeah.
elections actually held there. And that would give us more parking in the, assuming in November and in February or March, town meeting day, it's probably not going to be very full from fishermen. So I believe there's already a path there. We can make sure that that's
And you may be
maintained.
doing a sidewalk.
We're
That's,
looking at
Oh, yeah.
doing a sidewalk from the town hall over
Yeah.
to the park.
yeah.
And, we purchased the property on the corner, which kind of intruded into the right-of-way there, and so we could make use of that. And there's been long-range talk of a possible small roundabout there where all
Right.
those roads come
Five
together.
corners.
I call it the
Yeah,
five
it's
points.
kind of a, it's kind of a
Yeah, it's a
crapshoot
tough,
going,
tough
pulling out there
intersection.
sometimes.
Speaking of the election, I was asked by a town resident, I didn't think of it, Richard, why aren't they doing mail-in, or are they doing mail-in ballots this year? And didn't think about it too much, but asked Anna Borden, who said the presidential primary, I guess, was messed that up. You couldn't
Yeah.
just send out
Yeah.
all that stuff. So no mail-in ballot.
Unless you're
Had it not
absentee.
been a presidential primary year, would you have mailed out ballots again, do you think, or? You did that last election, right?
Yeah, I mean, I go back and forth on it, but the fact is, if we send them out,
Yeah.
and we've heard of very, very few, in fact, heard of zero, but I'm just assuming that maybe there's one or two.
Counted about 1 minute, I should say.
Yeah, very little, fraudulent anything. I haven't heard of anything with it. So when we've mailed them out, our participation has gone up drastically, and I think everyone can agree that more participation is generally much, much better.
Better.
So we may see that in the future.
We may. The
On
other side of it
non-primaries.
is there's a cost to it. So
Right.
that's.
Brian, you want the last word here? Again, budget to, just a few articles, $7.1 million plus budget and the $600,000 fund balance, but hoping for a good turnout, and you think you got a...
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, all I'll say is it's this budget, 99% of the increase is police.
Yeah.
One of our major things that this town needs to do is provide police coverage, fire protection, ambulance, and safe roads. This is going to enhance our ability to do that. We didn't really have a choice. I mean, if we didn't do this, what's next? Because I don't think the city probably would have bid on us next time, and now we'd be in a situation where it's non-competitive. We can't control that.
Okay, on that note, again, March Town Meeting Day coming up, not far in the future. Thanks to Bryan DesLauriers, the St. Albans Town
Thank
Select
you,
Board
Richard.
Chairman, Jack Brigham, the board's vice chair, Sean Adkins, the town manager. Thanks for your time. Thanks to producer Alan Cunningham. Thanks for watching us on Northwest Access TV. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. See you next time.